I'm joined by my dear friend Ed Reyes. Mr. City Attorney, we do not have a quorum at this time, so any action that we take will be deemed to communicate from the chair, and we will quickly get started. Now, what happened to Anne Marie?
You can call me Anne Marie if you like.
Okay, Anne Marie?
She's on vacation, I think.
No, you blew it. You said I could call you Anne
Sure.
Marie. So,
Makes it easier.
all right, Anne Marie, we're gonna go through our items that are on the consent. If you could please start with, in fact, no, let me do this official. I want to welcome everybody here. It's Wednesday the 20th. You're at the Housing, Community, and Economic Development Committee. My name's Herb Wesson. I'm the chair, again joined by my dear friend Ed Reyes. If you could please read item number 1.
Item number 1 is an LAHD report relative to authorization to release a new request for proposals for citywide fair housing services.
Okay, on item number 1, we will adopt the Housing Department's report. If you now read items 2 and 3.
Item number 2 are LAHD and CAO reports and resolution relative to authority to issue up to $5.6 million in tax-exempt multifamily mortgage revenue bonds for the Figueroa Senior Housing Project at 7621 South Figueroa Street. And item number 3 are LAHD and CAO reports and revised resolution relative to authority to issue up to $14 million in tax-exempt multifamily mortgage revenue bonds for the La Coruna Senior Apartment Project at 8107 Sepulveda Boulevard.
Okay, so on items 2 and 3, we'll adopt the CAO report. That brings us to item 4.
Item number 4 is an LAHD report relative to authority to submit a substantial amendment to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to implement the City Neighborhood Stabilization Program 2, funded by the American Reinvestment and Recovery Act of 2009.
Okay, we'll adopt the Housing Department report on that item. That brings us to item 5.
Item number 5 is a motion by Councilmembers Reyes and Perry relative to reprogramming $500,000 in community development block grant funds from the 36th program year consolidated plan to pay for eligible costs for the legendary Park Plaza project.
Okay, we'll adopt the motion on that, right?
Yes.
Okay, that brings us to item 6.
Item number 6 are CDD and CEO reports relative to approval of the proposed fiscal year budgets for the Industrial Development Authority of the City of Los Angeles.
Okay, we'll adopt the CAO report on that. That brings us to item 7.
Item number 7 is a resolution by Councilmember Perry for Wesson and Cardenas relative to authorizing the Los Angeles Development Fund to apply for a $125 million allocation of new market tax credits, and this will be in council on July 22nd.
Okay, what do you think we should do on that?
You should approve.
And why would you think that?
Because it's your resolution.
Anne Marie, I like you. Okay, so we've now been joined by Ms. Perry. So on item 7, so we have a quorum on item 7. We will adopt the motion. And Ms. Perry, we've taken action on items 1 through 6. They were communiques of the chair. If you don't have any concerns or questions, then we will. All of these will be approved by the committee. That brings us to item 8. If you could read item 8.
Sure. Item number 8 is a Community Development Department report relative to program year 2010-11, April 1st, 2010 to March 31st, 2011, Family Source Center annual performance evaluation results.
Okay. I think we have folk here. If you please come up. Oh, Ninos is with you. You're done? Okay. I should just make you come sit up here for the heck of it. But I won't do that. At least it's going to be quiet now. We'll wait a few seconds so Ninos can exit. And he still has some talking about. Okay, go on.
Good morning. Manny Chavez with the Community Development Department.
Good to see you again, man.
Good to see you too, Councilmember. What we have before you is the first annual performance evaluation of our Family Source Center performance. This is for the contract period of April 1, 2010 through March 31 of 2011. As you're aware, the Family Source Center was implemented about 18 months ago plus. This represents the first complete year of performance that we were able to evaluate. There are 16 nonprofit funded Family Source Centers and 5 that are actually city managed. From the onset of the Family Source Center system, the potential contractors were actually made aware that we would be evaluating them on an annual basis, and as such they would have to be recognized as certified in order to continue to receive funding from the city. In addition to the annual performance evaluation, they're also required to submit an application to the California Council for Excellence for recognition of their operational practices in implementing Malcolm Baldrige performance criteria. All of this is consistent with the work source and one source models that we have had for a number of years. So we simply replicated that model. At the commencement of the initial program year, we did bring in Cal State Northridge that spearheaded this design. They actually met with the contractors themselves in developing this policy as well as with staff. So it was a joint effort in actually establishing.
We select Cal State Northridge, and it's not a slight of them. I wonder how.
They were actually competitively procured when we selected the Family Source Centers themselves. So they were selected to conduct the actual evaluation.
Okay.
So the 4 major categories that contractors are evaluated on are customer satisfaction. And how we do that is Cal State Northridge staff actually go out and interview participants as they're receiving services at the Family Source Center sites. So they actually have graduate students go out and actually conduct those surveys. They in turn present a very comprehensive report to us. They conducted 3 performance evaluations or satisfaction surveys during the year, but the results only incorporate 2 of those because the results weren't available for the last one until just recently. The second category was outcomes. This is the primary, obviously, outcome that we're looking for from the system. It's increased family income and increased academic achievement. Contractors were expected to be successful in both of those outcome measures. We only had 3 that actually were on both. We did struggle a bit with the academic achievement outcome measure, that being where we have youth reported as returning to school, increased academic success, etc. So we recognize that that's an opportunity for improvement that we need to work closely with our centers on.
Why do we think that was?
I think it is primarily a reporting issue, their ability to secure the documentation to show the progress. Let's say a student progresses from a grade of C to a grade of B. That's considered academic achievement, but that requires them to secure the documentation to report that. So they'd have to go to the school and get the copy of that report card, etc. So we're working diligently with the contractors to make sure that they get the reporting down pat in that regard.
So you would assume that once they have a better way of doing it, that we should see increases.
We would certainly hope so. It's not that they're not enrolling the kids, excuse me, but it's simply a matter of reporting to us. Now, on the adult side, where they report increased income, they've had great success in that regard. And we actually looked at the increased dollar value of what they were bringing in for those participants that were served. That dollar value actually matches our investment in the system. So the system as a whole costs us $16 million. The academic or the increased income for the individuals that were served actually exceeded that amount of $18 million. Northridge actually applied a multiplier effect to that dollar amount. The outside revenue that was brought in, for example, on the earned income tax credit, they had a multiplier effect of 1.9. So in essence, if we generated $10 million in earned income tax credits, then the return for the city would be $19 million. So again, we're looking really for the first time ever the return on investment on our human services programs.
Were there any particulars where it relates to the earned income tax credit, how they went about, making sure that people, educated themselves so that they were aware that they might qualify for some of these benefits? So how did,
I'll defer to Abby.
Sure, I can answer
I
that.
just did that because I think Manny was going to hog the whole presentation.
I appreciate
And
that.
I wanted to
Thank
give
you.
you a chance to introduce yourself and to speak.
Good morning. Abigail Marquez, and I'm the program manager for the Family Source System. And I'll answer your question, and I would also like to walk you through some of our system-wide program
Please.
accomplishments. But to answer your question, all 21 of our Family Source centers also serve as VITA sites, which is the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program. So they are introducing the service to their clients or their customers year-round. And we've been gaining some great momentum with the promotion of the Earned Income Tax Credit, and I'll walk you through, if I may, the program accomplishments. But the first one, and you also have a color copy in front of you if you want to walk through these with me. But we were able to serve system-wide over 50,000 city residents through our Family Source centers. This represents a 50% increase from the previous model in our Human Service Delivery Program. We were able to see an increase of $18.9 million to program participants. So we are capturing how much money is coming back into the pockets of the residents that we're serving through the Family Source centers. And this was attained to helping them obtain a job, helping them open up a checking account. So we are putting dollar figures to all of these indicators, is what we call them. We were able to see over 3,000 youth increase their academic achievement, and Manny talked about those. And that is measured by seeing the progression of grade level advancement, seeing them go from grade level improvements from, a B to a C, or in many cases from, higher grades. We're looking at their attendance rate. So we're looking at if those attendance rates are improving. So we're looking at a number of indicators in that area as well. We were able to serve, so this answers your question regarding the Earned Income Tax Credit. We were able to serve close to 4,000 city residents through our VITA efforts, through the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program. So this represents an increase of over 2,000 people from the previous year, which was our first pilot year, and represents over $4 million in state and federal returns. And again, it represents an over $2 million gain from the first year.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I think Mr. Alarcon, when he was in Sacramento, had some legislation to try to make folk aware. I know my first year in Sacramento, I did the same, because you just have millions and millions
Right.
that just go, by the wayside every year. So
I'll give you another great example to how we're making an impact. We have Family Source centers, as you all know, in the areas of the cities that have the highest concentrations of poverty. And in many cases, our Family Source centers are the only volunteer income tax assistance site in that neighborhood. For example, in the Cypress Park area, our Cypress Park Family Source Center is the only VITA site in that area. In the South LA area, in the zip code of 90011, we have a Family Source Center that is the only VITA site in that area. So we're working with the IRS next year to identify other CBOs, or possibly broker a relationship with our Family Source Center and another CBO to provide the service. But we know that we really are in the areas where residents need us the most. So we want to increase that. So we were looking at creative ways around that.
we'll continue your aggression.
Thank you. The last couple of items is through our One app system, which is the electronic application that provides a single point of entry to access multiple public benefits such as CalFresh, Medi-Cal, CalWorks, and some of these other programs. We were able to connect over 10,000 city residents through our Family Source centers with these programs. Customer satisfaction, Manny did talk about the procurement process that we have with Cal State Northridge and the customer satisfaction evaluations that we performed, the surveys, that we performed at all of our Family Source centers. So their average was a 9.48 out of a 10, being the highest. And with our expenditures, we were at 100% expenditure of the CSBG ARA grant. So we were able to spend 100% of all of the ARA funding through the Family Source program.
Thank you very much.
And just one final comment on this. The bottom line in terms of performance is the model is built on a 4-star system. 4 being the highest number of stars that you can be awarded, 3, 2, 1. If you're not awarded a single star, then you're not considered to be successful. You would be subject to sanctions. So we have a total of 3 4-star performers. One of them is a city-managed site, that is the Bradley Milken facility down in South LA, and then El Centro de Ayuda on the east side, and El Nido in the valley. There were our 3 4-star performers. We had 5 3-star performers, 7 2-star performers, and 6 1-star performers. So we'll continue to work closely with those organizations that weren't as successful as others during this current program year.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Reyes?
One, I thank you for your hard work. I think it's essential that we have a place where people can go to when they're dealing with a crisis. And I know the facilities in my district, Lincoln Heights, they're the ones associated with Lincoln Heights. It's actually in El Sereno, correct? And the one in Cypress Park. But I wanted to ask you in terms of our ability to respond to different needs as time passes. So the past 3 years we had the housing crisis. We had folks going through loss of homes and being displaced from apartments because property owners were essentially moving in a direction where they wanted higher rents and therefore asking folks to leave for different reasons. How did you respond to that crisis? I'm curious to see, knowing that people were going to you, how was that approached? How was that handled? Can you just share with me? Because I did have folks come to my office asking, I have this situation with my mortgage, I have this, I have that. And it's hard to point to any one entity to say, this is a toolbox. These are support systems. Can you just give me some feedback on that? 'Cause I think in the horizon looking forward, seeing the level of foreclosures that we're going through, given that you're strategically placed, can you just give me some thought on that?
Robert Science, AGM, CDD. One of the visions of actually building a system rather than standalone programs is that we could respond as a city to various crises. Generally, if we look in our past efforts, we would have a network of agencies that we would fund, but no consistency of services and no real way within the city to actually manage a response. So I really do have to commend Manny and Abigail in terms of the efforts that they've had to help build the system. And if you can see the remarkable accomplishments they've made in the year and a half to actually lay the foundation. What we'll be poised to do right now is that we do have a network of 21 agencies that are connected, and each one of these agencies have between 3 to 7 subcontractors or partners. So when we talk about 21 centers, we're really talking about a network of about 150 community-based agencies that we can, on a dime, communicate to, and on a dime they can respond to. So that is really in essence of how we want to build the system. And specific to any one issue area, what we've been doing is process of educating all of our centers, and not just the 21 folks. We have about 200 FTEs, full-time equivalents, that are funded through our investment, but it's also the network that they reach. So it's probably a multiplier factor of 2 or 3 times that. But educating the community staff on particular issues. Abigail talked about the VITA program, but we're also educating them on workforce issues. We're educating them on other issues that come forward. So this is going to be our city way to actually increase the capacity of not just the community-based agencies, but increase the knowledge of the community members.
Well, I applaud the fact that you are now in a place where you can assess performance. And well, that was something that was very, it was lacking. We knew good things were happening, but in contrast and or compared to the amount of resources we were putting into them, it was very hard to determine. So now you have a network, you have a system, you have accountability, you have measures. But my question is more of, and I applaud you for that. I believe me, I've seen change in the way service is delivered in the centers that I'm familiar with. But I remember back in the mid-'90s when Councilman Hernandez was chair of this committee, and the monies were flowing into these programs, there were certain objectives that were being set, and I've seen it change over time, and now we see implementation. but we are in a historic period right now in terms of the economic crisis. And the volume of loss to residencies and to basic services is at an all-time high. We've never been here before. And that's what I'm asking. You know, I know it's necessary to do what you're doing, but are we nimble enough to respond? And my fear is that people continue to be victimized by the scams that are out there and how they're losing their homes. And so we have a tremendous network, and that's what I was asking. Is there any movement in that direction? Are we partnering with other folks? You cited that on a dime you can move and push information. Do we have information that pertains to that particular subject matter is my question.
So specific to the housing, no. We haven't traveled in that area, but with Rushmore sitting right here, and if we have the ability, if there's any specific education program that we want to be able to run through this system, we're more than able to do that.
I know Councilman Alarcón has been very focused on the whole issue of the housing subsidies, and we'll have a chat and one of my colleagues see if there's a motion we can put forth that addresses that significant need.
More than happy to use this.
Thank you very much for your hard work.
Any other questions? Okay. I too want to thank you. You're doing a good job. I think we're on the right track. I think just setting up this system where we can measure things, we could probably use this as a template in other areas as well. So stay on it, stay focused, and maybe because of your work, you'll see us spread this in other areas. So thank you very much. Any requests from the public to speak? Okay, then without objection on this item, we'll receive and file the CDD report. And to clarify, to make sure, we don't want people to think that Anne Marie is really here. We have Mark Torres is here. And Mark, again, you were here once before, and I told you you're welcome, and you're still welcome.
Thank you.
Now, my last question to you, is there any more business before this committee?
No, sir.
Then this committee is adjourned.